So today I thought I would do something a little bit different. For those of you that might not know, I actually have a Facebook group for my Faith Impressions line with Gel Press. And 2 to 3 times a month I go live in there and we do a devotion, we do a full project, and just work on tips and techniques and projects and just have a lot of fun and support each other. So yesterday actually was a live I did, and so I thought it would be fun to throw that out there on my YouTube channel just to show you guys what a live is like in the Facebook group. So today I'm gonna throw that in today. We're working on Ephesians 1:3 and we are discussing the idea of being blessed and not lucky. So I hope you enjoy this. I will leave the link to the Facebook group down in the description if any of you guys want to join it. It's super fun, it's growing, and I'm super excited to be part of it. So let's get started on today's project. All right, I think we are live, friends. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first day of March. Yay! Any March babies out there? Leave it in the comments if you are. I am a March baby. Therefore, I believe March is the best month to be born. Everyone else who's born in any other month, I think, believes that. So I think everyone believes their month is the best month to be born. Good morning, Mary Lynn. So today I am super duper excited to be, thank you. I'm super excited to be playing in our large format illustrated Bible this morning, and I wanted to, good morning, Ella. I know we are reaching springtime and March is St. Patrick's Day, so I wanted to thank you for the happy early birthday. We won't talk about numbers. Math has started making me sad when it comes to how old I am, so we're just not going to talk about that. With the kind of I know you've been to Walmart or any other place, you're seeing all of these tons of St. Patrick's Day and Lucky and all that kind of stuff. And so today I wanted to just kind of focus on the idea of being blessed and not lucky, that it's not just by chance that we are loved and accepted and honored and adopted by Christ, but it is because we are blessed and highly favored people among him of being his daughters. So I wanted to kind of go with that idea today. Also, I put a little teaser in the group this morning that there is a special sale coming up that I think you guys might be super excited to hear. So this month, starting today, if you purchase the Faith Impressions kit from our gelpress.com website, you have your choice of any of the 7-inch impressables. Yay! So I've been waiting for this sale for a while. I've known about it for a couple months, but I couldn't say anything yet. So we're actually going to play with the impressables today, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how fun they are. I'm going to pop this one out. This one obviously is my most well-loved one, or my favorite because it's well-loved. So if you're not familiar with impressables, it basically is the exact, I'm just going to peel this one off. It's the same material as your gel press plate. Oh, Ellen, thank you for popping in even though you're working. That's very sweet of you. It's the same material as your regular gel press plate, your Faith Impressions, all that kind of stuff, but they are all embossed with these really fun and really cool shapes and designs. So you can actually do a lot of the same techniques with the different colors, the alcohol inks, the textures, and all that kind of fun stuff directly on these plates, and then get the added benefit of that embossed texture on top of it. So this one is called the Overlapping Circles. This one is called, that's a good question, Squares in Squares. So there's that one. This one is called Repeated Circles. And then this one is our most popular. It's called Mandala. And you can see it's gorgeous and also well loved. For those of you that just joining us, I'm showing off the maybe someday, the gel press impressibles, because starting today and going through the month of March, if you purchase a Faith Impressions kit from gelpress.com, you get your choice of any of those 4 impressibles that I just showed you. So super fun, can do all sorts of stuff with it, the same stuff you can do with your gel press plate, just kind of taking it up a notch. So today we're going to be playing with actually a kind of a hodgepodge. So I'm going to actually be using my 8x10 plate this morning, but obviously you can do this exact same thing with your Faith Impressions border plates or any of your other gel press plates if you don't happen to have these particular ones. I just knew I wanted to do this in my large format Bible, so this is kind of my go-to plate for that. I went ahead and prepped my surface with some, I'm having problems getting this to go back, with some clear gesso. I also, you can kind of see there's a little bit of shadowing right there. That's because this is the first page in Ephesians, and if you have one of these larger format illustrated Bibles, you know that that first page always has like a big bold, here, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, so it always has like the book title, the book name in like really big letters that are kind of hard to cover up. So I went ahead and added a couple layers of just white acrylic paint over that, just to kind of subdue it a little bit so that when I lay down my other colors, it's not going to be as noticeable. And then I also covered the entire thing with clear gesso. And here's why I did that. Only because if I would have just acrylic this and then left this kind of, for lack of a better phrase, naked paper, I would have ended up with 2 different textures. So if I laid acrylic paint or whatever we decide to use on these 2 different surfaces, they would have reacted differently. So in order to get a smooth and even surface and have it going the right way and having a cohesive texture among the entire thing, once this was dry, I went ahead and just put a layer of clear gesso over the entire surface, and like I said, just so we keep kind of a harmonious texture and that all of my mediums kind of react the same way. My husband was really sweet. He brought me a smoothie right before I started because I'm always hungry lately. I'm in training for a couple of big races, and so this weekend I ran 10 miles on Saturday and 15 miles yesterday, and so I'm never hungry the day of a big run, but the day after I'm always starving. So I ate oatmeal and then he brought me a smoothie. All right, so I'm gonna smooth this out, move this out of the side to the side for just a little bit. So like I said, we're gonna be playing with our impressibles, our larger plate, and then we're gonna be using our little lopsided heart from the Faith Impressions line. We finally came up with a name for these because we kind of been calling them mini for a while, but it kind of didn't fit with our line, and so they have a fancy new name. They're called demi plates. Ooh. So that's what we're supposed to call them now. But yeah, super fun. And they're bougier than mini. So we get a fancy name now. And it goes well with, because the next size up is petites. So it kind of goes with that whole kind of thing that they were going for. So let's get started. So my goal is to make a background with my big plate and my impressibles and some bunches of color, and then we're actually going to turn our little lopsided heart here into kind of a shamrock shape to go with this idea of being blessed, not lucky, if you saw the title or the info for today's live. And I should probably read the verse that we're going off of today. So we are in Ephesians, and we're using chapter 1, verse 3, and it says, "Blessed is the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us with every spiritual gift in the heavens." So I want to use that idea of having been blessed with all spiritual gifts. Hey Valerie! So just that idea that we're, like I said earlier, if you're just joining us, we're kind of in that season of shamrocks and rainbows and I'm lucky this, I'm lucky that, and just kind of refocus on the idea that that us as Christians, we're not lucky. It's not happenstance. It's not just by luck or anything or coincidence that we have the favor that we have. It's because we are daughters of God and we are chosen and we are saved and we are sanctified. So I kind of wanted to focus on that today, with today being March 1st. And so we're going to be playing with some acrylics and maybe grabbing something else. I don't know yet. All right, so let's move this little guy out of the way. And like I said earlier, you can use this technique obviously with any of the gel press plates. And I need one more thing. Oh, this guy. Ignore the sound of stuff falling. You didn't hear anything. Someone in my house is making bacon. Sorry, random, but I think someone in my house is making bacon. That is so rude. Alright, so if you're not familiar with this, I've used it in a few lives, but I'm not sure if I've ever explained what it is. This is actually comes in kind of like a palette, a little format like this. This is actually called palette paper, and so it is meant, it has a slick surface, and it's great for putting your paint on and being able to mix and match and that kind of thing, and reuse it until it gets too messy, and then you just kind of peel it off and throw it away. It's great, it's great because your paint doesn't, because of the slickness, doesn't absorb into it. So you're not, like if you use a paper plate or something like that, you're going to have that absorption factor where you're going to lose some of your paint and some of the moisture of your paint really fast because it's going to absorb into that paper plate. So this is super great. I got it at Hobby Lobby. I've had it forever. I probably have had this for 2 or 3 years. It comes with like 30 sheets or something. It's super handy for this kind of thing because I have a couple of plastic palettes, but then they get gross and they get dirty. Yes, so palette paper is in the kind of the art section over where like the sketchbooks are and that kind of stuff, if I remember right. Super handy, love it, use it all the time. As you can tell, I used it in a video recently. Alright, so we're going to start with some acrylic paints. I don't think I've used these since maybe I did, but in case you haven't been around, these are like my new favorite paints for like cheap acrylic paints. They are the Folk Art Multi-Surface, super cheap, like $1.99. They were on sale when I bought them. I might have bought like 12 colors. I actually used them at a live in the Bible Journaling Tips and Tricks group, and kind of just forgot I'd had them and fell in love with them because they're almost in that, let me find something. So they're very much in the line of the Dina Wakley acrylic paints where they're not quite heavy body, but they're not really loose. And so, they're a thicker paint, and I've really just fallen in love with them and their coverage and that kind of stuff. So if you are heading to Hobby Lobby or Joann's, wherever your soup du jour is, grab just maybe 1 or 2 colors and play with them. Like I said, I'm really, really loving just the for the price, the pigment and the thickness and that kind of stuff. So Folk Art Multi-Surface. So I'm a little plug. I don't get paid anything, but I just like them. I'm really in love with them right now. So you can see my plate is nice and dirty. So we're going to end up with some, hi Diana, we're going to end up with some extra yummy prints because I didn't clean my plate from the last video I did for my YouTube channel where it was all about my creative brain and just being super colorful and bright and kind of overloaded. And so I didn't clean my plate because I was like, well, number one, I don't clean my plate hardly ever, but also because I thought it would make for some really pretty extra colors. So we're going to stay kind of in this same color family and use our 3 colors that are kind of yellows and oranges. So it's Vivid Orange, Daffodil Yellow, and Moon Yellow. And we're just going to add some dots, and you can see probably even from there how well the paint is holding up. It's not spreading, it's not super liquidy. Like I said, give it a try if you've been wanting to like get some thicker paints but maybe didn't want to splurge on kind of the more expensive stuff, because I mean, let's do a little price comparison. This is 1 ounce, and I think her paints are like $7 or $8. $6, $7, I can't remember. This is 2 ounces, and it was $1.99 plus my sale price. So, you know, it's worth trying, y'all. All right, let's add this other color. And just for fun, to kind of show you guys what the impressibles can do, I'm going to grab just some plain copy paper, and we're going to do just a little bit of playtime before we move into our actual project. So I'm going to move my Bible for right now and kind of just set it to the side. So I have a little bit more room for this, and I'm going to put a piece of white paper under this. My mat that I under here is about time to trade out because, as you can tell, it's well loved and messy from numerous projects. That way you guys can kind of see things a little bit better. There we go. And we're going to take our nice little brayer and give ourselves just a nice little kind of chunk of paint of something. Ooh, my dog is barking. Why's my doggy barking? And just kind of give it a nice little surface there. I'm going to clean my brayer off on an extra piece of paper over here. And make sure you save those little brayer sheets because sometimes those turn out beautiful. There we go. And we're going to do the app just for playtime. We're going to do like the simplest idea for our impressibles, and that is literally just to take them and stamp them onto our plates. And bonus, because now we've got all that yummy paint on our gel press impressible, we're going to have an extra print over here. And as you can tell, this one's nice and dirty, so who knows what that's going to look like. So I'm just going to rub it over here. So because my impressible was dirty, I now have these really cool grungy circles as kind of an extra print. Always fun. All right, and then let's pull this print. And again, this is kind of the simplest thing you could do with an impressible, but that's okay. Sometimes the simple is the prettiest. So we're going to give it just kind of a nice little rubby dub with just some copy paper, which is what I always recommend if you're new to our lives. If you're just having playtime, there's no point in using expensive paper to make those kind of prints. Just use regular copy paper until you kind of get the hang of it and find your happy place and your groove. And so you can see that I've got these great circle textures in my thing, and it cleaned up all those bright colors that I had left over from my last video. I'm gonna adjust my lights just a smidge here. There we go. All right, so let's play again. Let's add just a single color down. So we're gonna add just a yellow and give it a nice little brayer. So this is the Daffodil yellow. And we're gonna put just a nice little layer down. Kind of smooth it out on there. Clean it off over here. I'm going to scoot that up just for a second. And I'm going to take that orange now, and I'm going to add a little bit to my palette paper so that I can roll my brayer through that orange. And I'm actually going to apply that orange right to my impressibles plate here. Give it just a nice little dose of orange. I'm Southern, sometimes stuff comes out orange. And then we're going to bring this little guy back over. And I'm just going to apply it just in a few random places. And if you want, you can stamp this off so that you can reapply your orange. If you want to, you don't have to. gonna add a little bit more orange to this. Where'd my orange go? There it is. So I'm gonna go back in with my brayer and add a nice little healthy dose of orange back onto my plate. And then just kind of press it in. You can cover all the surfaces. You don't have to cover all the surfaces. I'm just kind of doing some serious overlapping circles. All right, and then of course, waste not. So I'm going to take clean that off so I can use that print later. It's like a 2-for-1 special. So again, you can see it's starting to pull up all those other funky little tidbits that were left on there. Right, I'm going to set that to the side, and then we're going to come over here and slide this way. And let's pick up this yummy print. And just give it that nice little rub. My plate, whenever I put a piece of cardstock or copy paper underneath it, it slides a little bit more on that acrylic sheet. I'm like, stop it. You're making me look bad. So we're just going to give it a nice little rubby-dubby-dub. Look how pretty that is. I'll take pictures of these, and so you can see the finished projects or the finished prints whenever I post the finished of our project today, just so you can see a little bit closer. But it makes just beautiful textures and beautiful prints. And I mean, we got two really completely different things from the same pole. So it really just does give you more variety from what you're doing and that kind of stuff. So yay! So again, there's obviously tons and tons and tons. The slide, yes, woo! Hi, Jennifer. Obviously, those are the most basic things, but you can even see just doing the most basic things with acrylic paints still gives you just beautiful textures and beautiful images. All right, so now we are going to switch. And what's super cool is you can use the alcohol ink technique with your impressibles because it is the exact same material as your gel press plate. So any of those favorite, can't grab it. Any of those favorite mediums that you like, you can use on your impressible, which is super cool. Hi, Joan. All right. Just put in the chat if you already own any of the impressibles, and if you do, which ones. Just for giggles, let's see if anybody has any yet. For those of you that are just joining us and might be wondering what the heck I'm talking about, so along with the gel press plates in all the varying shapes and sizes, they also make these things called impressibles. Long story short, they're basically the exact same thing as a gel press plate, but they have these really cool embossed designs on them. And I'm going to stick this back on here. And this month, if you buy a Faith Impressions kit, you get your choice of a free 7-inch impressible. So you could get the repeated circles, you could get the mandala, which is super popular, you could get the repeated circles, or you could get the squares in squares free with your purchase this month from gelpress.com of the Faith Impressions kit. So that's why we're playing with it today, because I was super excited. I've known this sale was coming for a couple of months, but of course, you know, can't say anything because that's life. And so I was super excited to finally be like, yes, I can finally tell them this great sale is going on. So let's play with, I think since I'm doing a green, I think I want to do my background kind of, I really like this yellow-orange kind of thing. because it very much reminded me of like baby chickens. I don't know why, that's what it reminded me of. I guess it's because of the orange and the yellow. So I think I'm going to go with that kind of same color scheme for our background. Scoochy this a little bit. So I'm just using my brayer to get a nice even surface on there. I lost my brayer cleaning sheet that I had a second ago. Did I shove it under here? Nope, I just lost it. Okay. I think. Daffodils. I love daffodils. All right, and we're going to use kind of that same technique with the, where we're using our orange. Will I use the same one? Yeah, I think I'll use the same one. I was going to switch to a different one, but this is my favorite. I don't know why. I think it's because it's like crazy and chaotic and, you know, kind of like me, crazy and chaotic. All right, so we're going to kind of paint up our impressible here. And give it a smoosh. Kind of get some of that yellow off. I guess there was more orange on there than I thought. I want this to be super orangey and super crisp, so I'm actually going to reapply my orange after every stamp if it needs it. There we go. Add this little guy right there. Oh, I kind of made that one move, but that's okay. Love it. Give that a nice little clean off over here. The satisfying sound of peeling it. Do I recommend 2 brayers? I own multiple brayers. Do I think it's necessary? Not really. The big thing, a lot of people have more than one brayer just from the aspect of wanting to keep one for acrylics and maybe one for like your alcohol inks and that kind of thing. I tend not to because, just keeping it real, I'm kind of cheap. So it's kind of just up to you. I honestly don't think it's a necessity. The only time I think it's a necessity to have a designated brayer for something is if you're ever using something that's like an oil-based, yeah, I'm saying it right, thing like oil sticks, or there's a technique I did on the Gel Press YouTube channel where you use petroleum jelly, and that's definitely something that you want to have a designated brayer for because it can be really difficult to clean off if you like that technique. But just for regular everyday use, I really don't. In fact, I think I probably grab the same one just about every time because I just don't even think about it. So just to add a little bit more texture and a little bit more color, I've got this cool art foamy stamp. Kind of reminds me of bubbles. And I've got this color, it's called Cayman Blue. So it's kind of this kind of color. And we're just gonna add a little bit to our thing. This also works really great with bubble wrap. If you haven't used bubble wrap on your gel press plate, it is one of the coolest, funnest, and cheapest texture things you will ever use. So I'm just doing this just to kind of reinforce that circular pattern and just add a little bit more color so that we don't just have that kind of two-tone background. And just kind of here and there. Apparently I'm feeling very circly today. All right. And I've got my plate. Now's actually a good time. I cannot remember who it was, and I apologize if you're here today. Someone asked a question earlier in the group about what kind of plate you should get for your gel press. Like, should it be an inch wider? Should it be a half an inch wider? That kind of thing. And I'll kind of say what I told the vegetable and fruit bags. Yes, those make for great texture. You wouldn't think, but they're awesome. But I'm going to tell you what I told her. I'm the firm belief that get a plate that is multi-purpose. Like this one is a 9x11. That's from Joggles. I own it because it was given to me, not because I paid for it. It's not horrible. It's like 15 bucks. But I think I said in an earlier one, and so maybe new people haven't seen it, you can go to your local Lowe's and they have acrylic sheets just like this, and they will cut it to whatever size you want it to be. So I think I bought an 8x10 sheet. It was literally like $3.60, and I had them cut it, let me see if I can grab this, into the strips that I use for my Faith Impressions border plates. And so it's one of those, I would love to promote these other companies, but I mean, when you can get it so much cheaper, why not? That's the other question. Oh, so store your plates. Let me find, where is it? I'm looking for stuff. So if you get anything from Gel Press, it comes with a clamshell case, just like this, and then it has like the papery stuff in it. You want to take the paper stuff out because that is just for manufacturing, and then it also has, let's see if I have one that still has it on it. Oh, this is close enough. It'll come with these acetate sheets. Both of these acetate sheets, you pull off, throw it away. Actually, don't throw it away. Save it and use it for a craft project in the future. But you don't need to put it back on your gel press plate for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is only used for manufacturing purposes. It's not meant for storage. And also, a lot of people run into problems because you're never going to put this little thin sheet of plastic back on your plate exactly smooth like the manufacturer could. So you're running the risk of air bubbles getting trapped underneath it, and if they sit there for too long, they can actually permanent dips in your plate, which will then affect the quality of your prints, and we don't want that. So take these off, throw them away, and then you really just want to store your gel press plates just back in this little clamshell case. Just lay it back in there and snappy it down, and you're good to go. Ranger does make a line of gel press tins, or gel plate tins, whatever, you know, Southern, that are popular but not really necessary. Those are really more for aesthetic purposes and making things look cool when they're stored in your studio. And if you travel, I could see having a harder sided thing might be useful, but really just your clamshell case, perfect storage. I have all of mine. I'll post a picture of mine at some today too. I've actually got all of mine upright. You want to store them upright, kind of like books. And I've got mine actually all in, they are kind of those magazine holder things. So someone else is asking me, do you store flat or standing? I was always trained, there are some people that don't believe this, but this is the way I was always trained, is you store them up and down just like a book. And here's why. If you are, particularly if you're like me and you tend to leave them the crusty bits on it, if it's something that you might not use very often, that crusty bit sits on there for a while, if it's like this, gravity is going to start working, and there's a chance that if it's a big enough kind of crusty bit, it's going to do the same thing as that air bubble. You run the risk of it leaving a permanent indentation in your plate, just because of the weight over time. Someone said they threw their case out. It's totally okay. Other people have done that. We even have artists on our team that don't use their cases at all. Carolyn, I just lost her last name. Doobie? Yes. She keeps hers stacked on her desk, but she uses hers daily. My Faith Impressions set literally sits on these right next to my desk because I use them so often. The ones you really just want to make sure you store back in those cases are maybe the ones that you're not going to use as often, but if you throw away the case, it's not a life or death situation. It does help you keep your plate moister, which means you're going to get better prints. But if you ever get to, I realize I've just let this sit there, it'll be fine. Let's do a little care for our plates. So a lot of times, especially if you use your plates a lot, you'll start noticing, like this one has it. Let me grab this one. You'll notice that your plate starts to get a little bit of a dull finish, and you'll definitely start noticing that maybe your prints aren't as good, your paper might be sticking, and that's because you've left your plate maybe a little too much, and there's a little bit of film on your plate. Super easy to fix. If you have any big chunks, use a little bit of hand sanitizer to remove it and clean your plate really, really well. And then just take a few drops of baby oil. Depending on how big your plate is, you might need more than a few drops. But just add a few drops or however much you need, and then just kind of give your plate a nice little massage. And what that does is it kind of rejuvenates the surface and cleans away any little tidbits that you can't see, any film that might be on there from the various mediums you might be using. And you'll notice a huge difference in your plates or in your prints. So just kind of, if you start playing with your plate a lot and you start noticing your paint is sticking, your paper might be sticking, or your prints just aren't as good, try just giving it like a little rejuvenation massage with some baby oil, and you will notice all the difference in the world. Okay, so I guess we can peel this off now since I've been talking for like ever. Those are good questions, guys. Oh, and I did not press that down hard enough while I was talking. Let's see if I can line that back up. That's what happens when I'm talking. All right. We're just going to flip it over and use the other side to add some texture. So that does happen sometimes if you, if you let the paint dry on there a little bit too much. It doesn't have that kind of stickiness that wants to stick to the paper. And so, you know, sometimes you go with it, especially when I'm doing lives like this and I get to chatting and I forget stuff. Well, I'm not loving it. It's because I got to talking and my paint dried, but that's okay. We can make it work. We can make it work. Obviously, if you do it in the way that you're supposed to and you don't get super chatty, you end up with really pretty prints, which I still like this one. So what I think I'm going to do to kind of make up for my little mistake there, I don't clean it after every use. Some people do. That's kind of a personal choice. If you like really clear prints, clean it after every one. I know the majority of people don't clean them because it's not necessary. All right, we're just going to add some circles on here. Definitely, you know, it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of moment. Because I got to talking and stuff, because, you know, life. So I'm just going to continue just to build up some fun layers with my impressible. Yeah, let's say I intended for that white space to be there, Joan. Let's go with that. So I'm just adding just some random paints to kind of go with my color scheme and just give that kind of all over overlapping circle kind of thing. All right, I'm gonna move that, and I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun real quick, so it might get loud for just a minute. right, cool. So, for those of you that are just joining us, we are in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3, where the latter part of that verse says, well, let's read the whole thing. It says, "Blessed is the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has blessed us with every spiritual gift." And we kind of wanted to, for lack of a better word, we wanted to kind of combat that idea that we see around this time of year about being lucky. And so I wanted to use that idea of being blessed, not lucky. And so, yeah, so it's for those of you that might have joined us a little late. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do. And I'm going to plan, I know, shocker, but I want to make sure I can get these spaced correctly to do. So we're using our lopsided heart from the Faith Impressions kit. And I'm kind of just doing a rough outline of it just to make sure that I can fit all of my little 4-leaf clovers, which is what we're going to kind of turn this into. We're going to make a little lopsided 4-leaf clover out of this. But I kind of wanted to make sure that I had enough space, because you know I didn't want to start putting everything down and then be like, just kidding, can't fit it all in there. Yay! I probably would have been fine, but you know, can only have so many screw-ups in a life. All right, so this is just a plain old acrylic block, so the demi plates fit perfectly right on there. Let me give it a nice little squishy down. And I'm gonna put a little piece of paper under this so you guys can see it better. And not that it's anything fancy, but my title, I just printed out a Word, and you can see it printed out in 2 sizes, because I wasn't 100% sure where my title was going to go, and I wanted to make sure that I gave it, that I had options, and I didn't end up with something too big and then have to reprint. So I tend to do this a lot whenever I'm just printing something really quick out of Word. I'll print it out in 2 or 3 sizes, and then that way I can kind of figure that out later, what I like the best. All right, and we're going to go for just a classic green. We have a little smooshy right on there. And give it a nice roll so we end up with a thin coat. I was going to add texture, but I think I'm going to add texture as a second layer, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a second. So I'm just going to line this kind of, it doesn't have to be exactly where my lines were, but just give it a nice little press. We've got our bright green little heart / clover leaf, I guess. Is that what it'd be called? So we're just going to add a little bit more, and we're just going to do the same thing. And rather than add my texture to my paint, I'm actually going to go back in once that's dry and add my texture on top of it, which I'll show you what that means here in just a second. So I'm going to kind of line my little guy back up here, give him a little press. Tell him to be a good boy. So verse is, sorry, sometimes my camera setup is here and my computer's over there, so sometimes I forget to go look at comments. So the verse we're using is Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. So we're really just kind of building our little 4-leaf clover. And again, you can do this in any kind of Bible journal. It doesn't necessarily have to be done large scale. You could even just build your background and then find a free little 4-leaf clover online to use for your for your little design here. So we give him a little press, get our last little guy on there. I'm going to kind of clean this off a little bit because what I want to do, clean my brayer off. Brayer sheets are always so pretty because you never know what you're going to get from them because it's like this really kind of hodgepodgey of colors. All right, I'm going to hit those with some, with a heat gun so I get them all dry. Sorry it's so loud for you guys. Here we go, and I'm actually going to walk over here to my little stashy stash. All right. So I'm not gonna lie. So Valerie, you like the idea? But so did I. I thought of it like this morning. I was like, I wanted to do something kind of in that vein, and then I was like, well, how can I make a shamrock? And then I was like, duh. All right, so I've got some gold pigment ink from Color Box, which I think doesn't exist anymore. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they exist anymore. And so I'm going to use this kind of mermaid thing, stamp, I'm not sure why I said thing, and ink it up really good with that gold, and then stamp the gold onto my plate. And since my plate is see-through, I can use it to just go back over and just layer in some pattern. Yes, that makes my heart happy. So you can see I've got the gold shimmer and kind of that mermaid pattern. And I'm going to do that for all 4 of them. Since this is a pigment-based ink, you wouldn't want to put it, because we've done the technique before where you've stamped onto your plate and then added your acrylic paint on top. That technique really only works with like a permanent ink. So anything that's like a water-based or a pigment or something like that isn't going to work. So that's when this technique comes in really handy to just use your acrylic stamp block and your clear gel press plate and just kind of add those textures in after the fact. It's a great way, like I'm doing right now, to add that that little hint of gold, which kind of goes with our little theme here. Sorry, pigment ink sometimes can be very sticky and doesn't come off as well as I would like to give us a really good crispy image. So I'm just adding a little bit more. And I also did that in reverse order. I put my ink first and then did my texture instead of just stamping directly onto it. And I'm loving this kind of mermaid thing because once you put it on there, it almost doesn't look mermaidy. It kind of looks almost like feathery or something like that. And it's just kind of reinforcing that whole kind of pot of gold thing. Give that a nice little squishy. I'm going to clean that off. Yeah, this pigment ink is super sticky. Like, release! Release! I want to put something else on there. All right, one last little guy here. Yay, there we go. Love that. It also kind of tones down our green a little bit. Yeah, it does kind of look like a turtle shell. And then just so we can kind of reinforce this little bit of gold, I'm just gonna smoosh it down on there and kind of really just going for just some added texture. I'm not trying to get like really heavy imprints. So I'm just kind of lightly, for lack of a better word, kind of wiping it. Release the beast, right? So I'm just kind of trying to add just a little bit of this gold here and there. And then, or you want a little bit more, you can literally take your, you could go old school. Does anybody who was in scrapbooking years ago remember when edging everything and like Tim Holtz vintage photo or walnut stain or something like that was like the thing to do? Everything had to be distressed and inked, and I still remember that. That's a throwback. That was back when like Tim Holtz really only had those kind of, all those neutral colors, and now he's got like this whole catalog of bright colors. Like his new one is a pink called Flamingo. I think it's like Kitschy Flamingo or something Flamingo. I can't remember the exact name, but it's really cute. So we've added just a little bit of gold to kind of reinforce that whole idea. And, okay, so I'm going to have to paint in my, find a brush, there we go, my kind of little stemmy guy here. So I'm going to add just a little bit of green paint to here. And just kind of freehand my little stem. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just kind of getting something on there so he's not just kind of a four-leaf clover hanging out. There we go. I'm going to let that dry. So now our four-leaf clover isn't just kind of dangling out there. All right, and I'm going to pull out my Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen. These are some of my favorites for just kind of making smudgy details, for lack of a better phrase. Before I do anything else, I realize I'm going to go in and erase my little starter kind of guidelines that I did earlier, just so there we go. Pencils are an artist's best friend, so we don't, well, I can't say so we don't mess anything up, so we minimize the amount of mess ups. All right, I'm gonna get this dry. Ooh, I cannot wait to do a close-up picture of this for you guys so you can see the texture that adding that little bit of that gold on top really kind of brings out in the entire project. I am loving it. All right, so we're gonna pull out just kind of a, I don't like that green. Maybe I'll try this green, or maybe we'll have to do brown. Yep, that's too light. I'm scribbling on a little piece of paper over here. How do I not have like a dark green? And guess it's time to buy more. No, I'm just kidding. These were a gift from someone for Christmas, so but I use them all the time. They're super handy. The only thing I'm not a fan of is that the brush tip breaks down really easy. Like it doesn't stay pointed. It starts, probably really can't tell, but it starts like feathering and kind of splitting. So you can't get super, I'm not a fan for like super detailed work. I stick with like fine liners and stuff for that. But they work really good for this kind of thing. And they're permanent, so bonus. So I'm just going to outline them just a little bit. I'm not trying to get a perfect outline. I'm really just trying to add a little bit of a shadow to kind of make it pop a little bit and give it some depth. This is definitely one of those messy mixed media kind of Bible journaling entries. And it's kind of definitely colors that aren't in my normal wheelhouse. Yo, there is not a pink in sight. There is not a hot pink at all on this page, which we all know is weird for me. So I'm kind of just adding a few layers of this. If you want to know the exact color, let me find it for you. It is Raw Umber 180, if anyone is into specifics. So just kind of playing with it till I get a good outline. And you can really see the difference of how much it pops off the page when you add just a little bit. And then if you go back in with just a layer and add a little bit and then kind of smear it with your finger, it gives that kind of halo illusion to where it's not just this harsh line. It kind of smears it and gives it almost like a halo shadow, so it kind of naturally fades out. And so I'm going to do this with all of my little leaves here. So whenever I designed this collection, all of the demi plates, I intentionally made them in a way where they could be multi-purpose, like the scallop circle could be a cloud or a scallop circle or maybe a little sheepy. The heart could be a heart or it could be a butterfly wing. And so I kind of thought that with kind of the idea for all of them. I never thought when I made the heart one, I was like, huh, that would also make a really cute shamrock. Not yet on the hot pink. The day is not over. I need to put a hot pink coin somewhere or something. So I am just continuing just to build up that shadow until it's kind of very natural and doesn't look like a harsh line. I know the finger swipey smeary thing isn't everybody's gig, but I like it. It works for me. And I just think it gives it just a lot more of a natural fade as opposed to trying to manually get that soft edge whenever you do something like this. I just think it kind of gives it just a very natural kind of vintage feel. I'm going to kind of try to cover up some of this white in the middle so it's not as garish, and we end up with kind of more of a dark center on our thing here. And so just getting a nice little gradation there with our Faber-Castell pens. These are what they call India ink, so when they dry, they are permanent, which is really nice if you're someone who maybe likes to go back in and add more details and add more layers. Date it in pink. That's a good idea. I need to do that. I mean, we all know pink is my signature color. I've thought a few times about changing my hair back to brown, but then every time I think about it, I was like, then I think I'd be sad. It's funny, we were looking at some old promo pictures from when we first launched my line a couple years ago, and in those, I will find some and post them. I have like dark brown hair, like almost like a dark espresso brown kind of color hair. And so it's super funny because I hadn't looked at those in a while, and I've had pink hair for so long that it's really weird to see me We probably have all done that though. You pull out an old picture and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot that hair color. But yeah, that was what I thought whenever I looked at it. I was like, I forgot how dark my hair was when we did those first pictures. Actually, you probably have seen it. It's the picture that's on the cover of the Faith Impressions line. So yes, it was a very, very dark brownish kind of espresso color. And it's just so weird to see now because it's so different from what my hair is now. All right, so we sufficiently dirtied up our little shamrock here. And I'm going to do the same thing kind of to my edging a little bit, just to kind of mute down that gold just a little bit, and to kind of bring that brown to other places as opposed to just kind of in the middle. Because sometimes if you add a color in like one area, it kind of, as pretty as you may think it might be, it kind of gets distracting because it doesn't make sense because it's not in other places. It feels almost out of place and your eye gets drawn to that one little part instead of like the whole of your project. So something just to keep in mind. I'm going to do the same thing here and give it just like a little edging here. And give it a nice little smooshy. Cute. Love. Yay, sorry. Making myself happy over here. That's what Bible journaling is, right? Just making yourself happy. And I think I'm going to use, what am I going to use? I think I'm going to use, oh, should I highlight my verse in yellow or brown? Let's throw it out in the comments. Should I highlight it in the brown or should I go kind of a yellow to make it bright and pop a little bit more? Throw your ideas out there because like now I can't decide. All right, I'm going to set that to the side and come back to that. So I want to brighten up my shamrock and my whole thing just a little bit. So I'm going to take this patina color and use my palette again. And I'm going to go in and just kind of add like you would see just a little highlight. And I didn't want to do it white because there's not really that much white going on in this particular project, and I was worried if I did white it would feel out of place. Oh, everybody's thinking yellow. So I'm going to take my little brush and kind of wet it down just a little bit so that my paint is really loose and a little bit more transparent. See how transparent I want it. And I'm just going to kind of add just a little, almost like a catch light. Kind of hard to see because I kept it very neutral, but you can see there's a little bit of just like a little, to give kind of that illusion that my leaves are 3D. Again, nothing crazy, not trying to make anything super realistic, just kind of giving them a little bit of an edge here and there to make them feel a little less flat. And do the same for our little stem here. And it just makes all the difference. Looks like we're doing our words in yellow. I should do that one day. I should do like a choose your own adventure live where I let you guys pick everything along the way. That would be super fun. We should do that. There's a couple of YouTubers I watch that are artsy people. One of them is this guy named Jazza. So he's an Australian artist. And he does Twitch live streams where they do what he calls character development. And the people who are watching the live stream get to pick like all of the things that this character gets to be. And it's just super fun to kind of get the audience involved in what he's doing and help let them kind of pick the characteristics. But that would be super fun to do as a live, where I just keep throwing ideas out and you guys get to kind of pick what we do along the way. Let's see. I think I'm going to use this one. All right, so we're going to come up here and we're using verse 3. In case you want to know the exact color, this is Cadmium Yellow 107. So just kind of highlighting our verse there so it kind of stands out. And then that yellow is a little bright, so I'm just going to go in with that brown. And again, kind of do that distressy, smudgy technique just to tone that yellow down a little bit so it doesn't feel so brand new yellow where the rest of everything is kind of more grungy. There we go. All right, now let's add our title. If I can remember where I put my piece of paper. There it is. All right, so I'm going to cut both of them out and kind of play with them and see which font size I think works best. All right. So there's the smaller one, which I think might be the winner just from kind of a knee-jerk looking at the size. So that one might work. Maybe one is bigger. I don't know. Let's cut the other size out and see. If you guys haven't seen the March calendar yet, I posted it over the weekend. And I'm super excited because in the next live, the gold stuff I used is from a company called Colorbox, which I can't remember if it's still around or not, but it's just a gold pigment-based ink. And so our next live, which of course will be in 2 weeks, I will actually be traveling back from a gel press business meeting weekend, which will be super fun. And so Marjolaine, our Canadian friend who is on the Faith Impressions team, will actually be doing that live that day. So I think it'll be super fun to just have someone else do it and just for you guys to be able to have some different techniques and different personalities. Renee Davis, who's also on our Faith Impressions team, is going to be doing a live in May. And so again, just a chance for you guys to see some different techniques, some different personalities, and just kind of see how we might be using the same products, but we process them differently and we kind of use them differently and that kind of thing. So I was super excited to kind of be able to bring them on board in a different capacity. I think I like this bigger one just because I like how much this kind of fills in the center of our shamrock. And I think we're gonna make it go all wonkety. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, maybe if we scoot him over. You know, gotta talk yourself through the ledge here. Yeah, I think we're gonna do that. There's those. And then, where is it? So I'm going to be using my Liquitex matte gel. It is my go-to. I was using Deco Art matte gel for quite a while, and I really liked it. The one I had lasted for quite a long time, but I think they stopped making it because I wasn't able to find it anywhere online. And so this was the one I used before I'd gotten that other bottle, and so I just went back to it because it still works and it still exists. All right. And so if you've never heard my rant against Mod Podge in your Bible, here it goes. If you've already heard it, feel free to ignore what I'm about to say. Mod Podge is not good for your Bible for numerous reasons. Number one, it is an adhesive plus a sealant. So you are running the risk of sealing your pages together because you have so much of the adhesive that you're using exposed, and time and pressure on a Bible that's closed runs the potential of smushing it together. Also, because Mod Podge is a water-based medium, any changes in humidity can actually reactivate your Mod Podge and again cause it to become sticky and gross, and can actually have your project start to lift up or get sticky enough to where again you run the risk of your pages sticking together again. So if you can use something besides Mod Podge, I highly recommend it. If Mod Podge is kind of your go-to hardcore, that kind of thing, one way to get around some of the negative side effects that you can have from it is to take a white unscented candle, and once your project is 100% dry, then rub your project with a white unscented candle, and it gives it like a waxy film that keeps it from doing that. So if you do a napkin, so a napkin is thin enough. Whenever I've used a napkin in my projects, I actually just use my clear gesso to put it down because it's so lightweight, it doesn't really matter. Yes, so gesso is great for your lightweight things. If you're trying to put something down thicker, like a die cut, or like I could have done this with my clear gesso because it's just thin copy paper. Really, you're just kind of making a little sandwich, and you would be fine. If you're using something thicker, like a thicker die cut or something of that nature, then you would want to go with a heavier medium, like a matte gel medium or something like that. I've just seen too many things go wrong with Mod Podge in a situation where it's an art journal or something of that nature, where you end up inadvertently gluing your project together. And we all put our heart and soul into these, and I don't want him to go. I don't want him to get mad, get messed up. Yes, so matte gel medium. So this one is, so don't get sticker shock. I know you're probably looking at that it's $17. But you use so little of this when I'm doing projects that, like, this matte gel, it is 8 ounces, will easily last me a year or longer because you just don't use that much of it to put your projects down. So I know it's a little sticker shock, but when it comes to the longevity of your project and making sure that you are going to be able to have those for a long period of time, it's just what I suggest. But clear gesso works great too, as long as it's something that's not heavy, like a thin piece of, like your napkin, or a thin piece of copy paper. Once you get into like a cardstock kind of texture, so my husband just popped on, and he said, "You paid how much for that?" That's my husband, if you guys want to say hi to him. And I did not pay that for that. I used a 40% off coupon at Hobby Lobby, which no longer exists as of yesterday. Yeah, I'll give my hubby some love. He popped in here. He's my biggest cheerleader and my hero. And starting to be my business manager because I don't like numbers. I like painting and goofing off, and so yes, matte gel medium is the same as matte medium. It's the same thing. It's just depending on the brand, some of them are thicker like a gel, and some of them are a little bit thinner. So it just depends on the texture of it. They just happen to call theirs matte gel because of the texture of it. All right. So now we're going to go back in with our brown. Ooh, that's very warm. I'm going to let that cool off just a smidge. Oh, good. Yes. Matte gel or matte gel medium, matte medium. It's all pretty much the same thing. It just depends on the texture. You should be fine. The big thing is, as long as it's matte, you should be good. I will say I have used the matte Mod Podge in a couple of projects, and I find for some reason that matte isn't as, it still has some of the same issues, but the matte isn't as bad. So if you're really struggling and you really just, you have to go with Mod Podge, or you already have some, if it's the matte, I don't hate it. It's just not my go-to. But the matte versus the glossy makes a huge difference for the longevity of your project. All right, so we're gonna go in and we're gonna do that same kind of little shadowing technique around our title and give it that nice little grungy look. So we actually did a project on our campaign last week on the Gel Press social media on Instagram, where we had the one of the sets of petites. It's actually one of Richard Garay's designer collections, and we asked the question, what do you see? It was actually a spin-off of a video I did last month for Gel Press, where I basically took these plates and try to think outside the box. Like, you might look at this and automatically think it's an arrow, and then, but the idea was, well, is it an arrow or is it a house? And then there was one that kind of looked like a light bulb, but it could be a light bulb or it could be a hot air balloon. And then there was another one that was a teacup, but if you took the handle off of it, it kind of looked like a cool tile. And so that's one thing I always encourage you guys to kind of think outside the box. Like, yes, this is a heart, but if you put a bunch of those together, we get a 4-leaf clover. Like a couple of times ago, we did a video, actually I think it was the first one we did of the year, about releasing, and it was all about, we turned all of those different shapes into balloons. And so it's just a matter of just kind of looking at the world a little differently and seeing how you can take the supplies that you already own and just use them in a kind of a new and unique way. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link to it here in the comments, and then just so you can kind of be like, oh, well, yeah, I can see that. Or maybe you guys have some better ideas. Bye, Miss Ellen. You know, maybe you look at some of the gel press plates and you're like, well, I see, you know, whatever. I think that's the great thing about gel press is it leaves it so open to not only interpretation, but it leaves it open for you to be able to be expressive of who you are. You know, there's a lot of companies that are like, okay, here's this, but you can only use it this one way. Whereas gel press and the kind of family of products that we have is really open to interpretation and just artistic expression in ways that a lot of lines aren't. And so that's one of the reasons I kind of chose to work with it, and the fact that all of our artists that are on our design team we're all just kind of allowed to be who we are. They don't try to pigeonhole us into being people we're not, or make us make projects that don't fit our personalities. I mean, let's be honest, if they came at me and said you can only use neutral colors, I would be like, I don't understand. Even though today's kind of neutral, but that's a whole different story. All right, let's see. I'm trying to decide if I want to add anything else or if I'm kind of happy with it. What do you guys think? Do you think we need to add, oh, I almost forgot, we do need to add the date. I almost forgot, friends. All right, I'm trying to find, where's my baby Sharpie? What is today's date? Oh, duh, it's March 1. We discussed that at the beginning. going to write the scripture reference right here, especially since I kind of had to cover up the fact that we were in Ephesians. So we're in Ephesians 1:3. So I just kind of added it right there, kind of on the little stem of our 4-leaf clover. And then I'm going to add the date. So it is March. I don't know why I wrote the actual date. Normally I just write the numbers, but my pen had a mind of its own and I wrote it out like old school. That never happens. And then I'm going to make this pop a little bit more with some little scribblies. I don't want to go too heavy since I don't really have a whole lot of black in this project, and kind of smooth it out, but I just wanted that to pop a little bit more. All right, my friends, I think we are done for today. If you didn't join us in the beginning, just a quick reminder of the sale that starts today. If you purchase the Faith Impressions line from gelpress.com, you get your choice of any 7-inch impressables. So in the 4 styles that we have, the one we used today was the repeating circle. So it might be a good opportunity to purchase that. It is, let's see, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so the impressables are a $19.99 value. So you buy the Face Impression set and you get a $20 plate free. So that's pretty cool. All right, I will take a picture of this finished project and add it to our Faith Impressions group. If you haven't already started following Gel Press on Instagram or on YouTube, make sure you do that so that you see all the different projects that are made with all the different Gel Press projects and products, and follow the YouTube so you get all sorts of inspiration. And make sure you follow me on social media. It's the Creative Life Studios on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. As of this morning, I am only 24 people away from hitting 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, so that's pretty cool. So if today would be the day I hit 5,000, that would be pretty awesome. I think that is it. So I hope you guys have an amazing Monday, and you remember that you are blessed, not lucky. Have an awesome day, guys.